Welcome to the Show Up Show, where we bring you everything you need to emerge as a powerful and healthy leader in your life, business, and relationships. Because how you show up in one area of life is how you show up in all of them. I'm your host, Debbie Pace, author of The Journal to Freedom, a foundational guide to help you examine your beliefs and how they shape your patterns and behaviors in life, so you can transform what's not working and can show up like a boss in every area of your life. This week on the Show Up Show, we're going to talk to one of my favorite, most badass friends in the whole wide world, Samantha Parker. She is the founder of so many awesome things, including Be Your Own Girl Crush, and she is just an online Instagram guru. I just love her for so many reasons, and I could sit here all day and just crush on her. That is how good she is at what she does. Anyway, Samantha and I had such a great conversation talking about reinventing yourself in business, what to do when everything comes crashing down, and we both have experience in that. So much more, some awesome bombs, and how you can get this total badass in your life. Tune in now, find out. What are you doing to show up these days?
So it's been a really fun journey. I started like this fun little online shop because I thought that would be just like the fun part of my business, right? And it still is definitely the fun part of my business, but as it's growing, it's morphing. And then I just combined with another shop online, and now we have this big community that kind of blew up overnight. So it's been really fun. So yeah, my awesome sauce right now is the Instant BFF company.
I love BFF because you're like my BFFFA, which like my BFF from afar, right? So like we're almost on opposite coasts.
Yeah, we are. I remember when I flew to Florida to see you, and it didn't occur to me till I was at the airport that like maybe you shouldn't do that, like fly to meet people that you met online.
Plus, it's so funny because I think you were taller than I thought, and it was almost like having a first date, wasn't it? It was so funny.
Yeah, it was. Everyone says that too when they meet me. They're like, "You're so tall." I'm like, "Really?"
Well, you were as amazing in person as you are online. And I have the luxury of having a few years of, well, I guess several years of history with you now. And one of the most awesome things about you is, well, I mean, where do you start really? But if I were to start,
right?
if I were to start somewhere though, I think what's really amazing is anytime there's a bump in the road, or you get this really strong sense that things aren't quite right, you instantly go in, do work, and realign yourself. And you've had several business iterations. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm a big fan of just like starting trash can fires with my life. No, the really like, I have no qualms with it, I guess. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Like, I don't really have a problem with how many times I've pivoted. And, I kind of look at like business adventures and this big world that we live in. It's like dating, right? Like you might go on one really crappy date. Maybe he even turns out to be an axe murderer and tries to steal all your money. And, it's like really, really bad. And like you need therapy, but that doesn't mean that there's not someone else out there who's really, really great. Right. So you kind of just have to treat it like dating. It's like, just because, one friend in kindergarten kicked you in the shins doesn't mean they all are going to. Like seriously, think about it, and people will do that thing where they're like, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, I'm horrible because this didn't work out. And it's like, well, it didn't work out yet, so you just have to kind of like pivot and shift, because if we're talking business, eventually you'll find the business of your dreams. But, even then too, it might go really well for 10 years and then, you might have to divorce it. Like, it's just one of those things in life,
That's so great. I think most people don't understand that business isn't a starting dot, a straight line, like high up in a trajectory, and then just some moment in time where you're all the way up there making all the money you want. And then you look down at the journey and go, I'm here. It's not like that. It's just like a relationship. There's ups and there's downs, and there's days where someone leaves their socks and it makes you mad, and then there's days where all you see is love through dirt and muck.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can kind of just take on your life experiences and this little adventure that you're on as kind of like, hey, we're here for the adventure. Sometimes it's uphill, sometimes you're coasting, sometimes there's an Uber, whatever. But if you can just
Feel like
realize
Uber.
that and just like get in the car or the vehicle or climb the hill, it's not that big of a deal. I think we make everything such a big deal and it doesn't have to be.
And I 100% agree with that. And I'm wondering too, so looking from the outside, you have this great mix of what you like to call woo woo or woo and business and grit and showing up for yourself. Has it always been like that for you, or has it been a process for your own evolution?
Oh, it's definitely a process, right? Like we're evolving souls. Here's the thing. I'm like, when did it start? I'm trying to like pinpoint it for you in a nice story format, but it really doesn't have one. It's like we're born and we are amazing spiritual beings, and then that's kind of like bred out of us, and then all of a sudden we have to rediscover it. So no, it's definitely not always been like that for me. It's been a huge adventure and a huge ride. And when I think that I've learned like the most crazy outlandish thing when it comes to spirituality, oh, look, here's another little layer. And you're like, how is this even possible? So, it's just like it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. But yeah, I don't know. There is something though, when you say grit, I totally embraced that word. I was like, yes, I am gritty. But in the sense of like, I might not always finish first, but I will outlast you. Like I take that into my fitness. Like when I work out, there's girls that come like right out of the gate and I'm like, that's fine because at the end of this class, I'm going to be going longer, and that's just something in my personality is I'm like, hey, I'm here for the long haul.
I love that. It's a great statement because so many people and one of the things I love what you just did about that statement is that you really pinpointed to the whole point of the life process, which is your only competition is you, right? And so
Yes. I
yeah,
won't participate like in fitness competitions, or, business competitions, anything. But right now, in fact, I work at a spin studio a couple mornings a week just for fun because I love it so much.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and they're doing this big fitness challenge right now, and I'm like, it's so great for everyone, and like I'm so encouraging, and I'm all excited for all the girls that are doing it because something like that really can change your life. But for me, I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't do that. Like the only person I compete with is myself, and then I feel like such a like weirdo, but it's just how I am.
Well, and that's an important point though because it's how you are. So some of us do much better at having a goal outside of ourselves, right?
Yeah,
Because it's sometimes the challenge is just showing up, but then sometimes the challenge is how can I do better? The growth really is in the strengthening of the process for some people. So, if you've been in fitness for many years and you feel confident and comfortable with what you're doing, you might need that extra challenge, or maybe it's something to get back into it and you have to really focus. It's funny because I was talking to a gentleman earlier today and he talked about his biggest challenge was himself. So he was a saxophonist and he would fake these auditions with big stars and say he had to practice, and he would pretend he was practicing for an audition. He would practice like 6 hours a day, and it was amazing, and he never had the auditions, but then he ended up never having to audition a day in his life because he worked so hard on his inside game when it didn't matter, that when it did matter he always showed up. And I feel like you're so much like that too. You're always working so much on your inner game that the outside stuff is not really where it's important for you, because
yeah.
it's a constant evolution.
Well, yeah, because if we're always looking for outside validation, like we're going to get nowhere, right? So when I look outside of me, it's for inspiration. I might see another woman doing something really cool and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And it kind of elevates your way of thinking, right? You're like, oh my gosh, that is possible. How is that something I want in my life, and how would that apply to my life? So you can get inspired, I think, by the world around you, but the competition and the up leveling has to come from inside you.
Have you ever been competitive?
Oh yeah, like if you want to play a game, like I will kick your trash. Like I take Uno very seriously. And then I did play sports growing up, and if you show up, you practice, you want to win, it's more fun to win, and I do love that competitive edge.
It's great because you can be both pieces of the puzzle to yourself.
Yeah. I just think when it comes to like life though, I don't want to compete with my neighbors across the street, and I don't want to compete with Debbie's body, I want to compete with my own body because we're all built differently, right? I'm taller than you. We're going to look different, like all those things, right? So it's just kind of pointless to be competing with those outside factors. But, games are meant to be competitive and they're meant to be fun. So that's a little different environment there.
Yeah. And so knowing the space. So how cool is it too that we all came here with different purposes, different strengths? We're all on our own journey. And if everybody's competing for the same thing, it really goes against the whole purpose of being here.
Yeah, I really think the only time we should ever compete is honestly to help raise each other. And if we would look at it more that way, like, hey, like who can I help today? That would be a totally different world, wouldn't it?
Or Uno, of course. Uno.
I was thinking phase 10, but Uno came out.
Yeah. I have that Uno attack, which we just need to not even talk about Uno attack. Do you have Uno attack?
I think we do. I'm trying to think. Doesn't it like spit out the cards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it always gets me. I'm like, one card left. And I'm like, no, but I digress. So we've had some really awesome experiences. You owned a magazine. You started in teaching people how to use Pinterest and Instagram and stuff. And you have quite a respectable community yourself on Instagram. Talk to us a little bit about your evolution in that sense.
Yeah. So really my end goal was to always just give like people a sense of community and let them know they're not alone. Right. So when I started out working online, I was doing social media management, which is funny because now like my social media management, I still have a lot of clients. It's just not like the face of what I do. So social media, lots of tech, lots of fun stuff like that. But then I really wanted to create a space where everybody could be involved. And that's where Badassery Magazine came in, which I co-owned. And I know you're familiar with that, Debbie. I co-owned that. It was a partnership that actually ended up dissolving last year. Well, actually, was it last year? Yeah, it was like the first of last year. I'm like, what year is it? 2020 has me all like strung out.
I know. You're not alone, sister.
Yeah. So I just had to dissolve that, which has been kind of like part of the journey and the evolution. And when that kind of fell apart for like reasons like we weren't meshing together anymore and we kind of had different visions for where things were going, and which totally fine. And when it fell apart, I just kind of dipped back into marketing, but I still was really, really missing that like whole like community aspect. And so everything I do is always about like, how can I inspire someone? My personal brand motto is be your own girl crush, because I think we should start looking at our lives and loving them more instead of looking outside of us and trying to crush on like others around us, right? I'm like, look at your own life and how epic it is. And that really does like trigger this like spread. When I'm enjoying my life, the people around me are enjoying their life. And if they're not, they've got some serious inner work to do, but hey.
If someone's around you and not enjoying their life, I think it's definitely a them issue.
Yeah. And going back to that whole just trusting the process, I decided to partner back up to start this new company. And that's been a great process as well. So it's just trusting the journey.
So I want to just take a quick dip because I really think that there is a lesson here for our listeners. When you owned Badassery Magazine, you had a podcast and you guys interviewed Gary Vee. And that's not a small feat. That's big stuff, right?
It is.
And so the point I want to make is that when you have that level of perceived success externally, walking away from something, really trusting your gut, your instincts, might require a little bit more than the average person is walking around with. What did you have to pull from to make the best decisions for you?
Yeah. And, that was perceived success on the outside, right? So, everybody was seeing it as like this big, big, giant success. And inside it was just like this internal, like really was kind of horrendous for being honest, and so I kind of had to go through that process. So when you're asking, where did I pull from? It's taken a lot, even really recently, I haven't been as excited about things as I used to be, traveling is kind of cut into that where like, I used to be able to like go see all my people around the globe. And I had some big events planned up for the Be Your Own Girl Crush and everything kind of got canceled. But, I realized that like back when I was doing Badassery, I really felt like I was a somebody, and I'd kind of fallen into this trap of thinking that I was a nobody, and I'm like, nothing's moving forward. But it's that patience factor. So I think really pulling from the patience and really healing that of, hey, just because you used to like have a podcast that had Gary Vee on it, that's like really freaking cool. Like you should frame that and put it on the wall, you know? And realizing that like that's catapulting you into the future. So sometimes when things fall too, we also need to be patient, because I was expecting just to pick things up at ground zero, which I mean, I did, and really jump and go. And I was building that. But like when external factors come in, I had to slow down and step back. And so, you know, it's just being really, really patient with yourself, with your journey, and it's pulling that patience. And I am not a patient person. Like with my kids, I'm like, why are you not in the car yet? You know, with my husband, I'm like, how do you not have your water bottle? Like, I'm not a patient person. I want things to happen like now. And so you have to pull that patience and realize that you're living in a very thick 3D world and things take time. And, you know, we have to live under the constraints of time, and we have to live under all these different like guidelines, you know, being here. And so you just have to be patient. Did I say that enough? You have to be patient.
I love that you're saying that. I feel like we're on very parallel journeys too, which is I'm working with a business manager right now, and which is something I never would have. You've known me for a few years, and letting go, surrendering to the process, and really allowing someone to guide you from their higher vision in order to collaborate with you in your higher vision is really not something that was a comfortable place for me. And the biggest thing that we're working through is patience, because when we just talked about this a few minutes ago, when we first come into the online space, you're throwing everything, your constant creations, you're constantly recreating yourself, recreating your business, recreating everything. And it's frantic and it's hectic. And, you know, because when we first get in here, I have to make money. I'm here to make money. And I've probably put some things on the line that need me to make money somewhere. And so we feel that added stress. But one of the things that I've noticed is really stepping back and having patience with it. It's like raising a baby, like you said with the water. Why don't you have the water bottle like the baby? Why aren't you out of diapers yet? You know, and it's a process and it takes time and patience beyond what we understand and think. I mean, partly because of the messages that are out there that we're believing, but also partly, I think there's an element of faith in ourselves too, of if I don't hurry up and do this, it might not work, or people might not take me seriously or whatever. And I think that what I'm seeing and feeling in you is this strong faith in who you are. And when you show up, and just takes you back to the Gary Vee thing too, you created that moment. And so you are the common variable. So at any moment you could create something, I like to use the word like as big or bigger or as good or better than that. And so that element of faith doesn't get lost.
Yeah, it's not like I'm down at the 7-Eleven working. It's a lot different than that. I have like a really like high-end clientele, and you know, it's still like a lot of fun. So yeah, it hasn't been lost. It's just kind of like waiting for it to like repurpose that energy and see where it goes.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you're doing in the interim, aside from working at the cycle? Was it Soul Cycle?
It's like Soul Cycle. It's like Soul Cycle. It's the hype. And I've been going there for so long. And then they asked if I wanted to work there. And I was like, I've been waiting for this day. You know, it's just a couple hours a week. So it's just, you know, for the morning classes, it's a lot of fun. Like I literally am there just for fun. I was like, oh, you guys sent me a paycheck. I wasn't even... You know, it's like, it's my social hour. But yeah, so yeah, I do that. I have a brand. We do lots of branding over at the Instant BFF company. We've got all kinds of swag, all kinds of stuff. We've done some really cool projects lately. Like right now we're designing a book. We just wrapped up like tarot cards. Like it's just a lot of fun.
Well, I think you answered the question anyway, was what you're doing, what's your process as your patient? And it sounds like your process is create the fun things, fill the space with fun stuff.
So it used to be a whole lot of like, when you build a business, people are like, here's how you're going to make X amount of money, right? And so I made X amount of money, and I realized making X amount of money that way totally freaking sucks, right? I hated it. I was miserable. Not fun. I got super fat and I hated myself, right? At the end. Like, let's just be honest. And so I had to kind of come back and redefine success for myself. So that's like a lot of it is just what is your success and what are you going for? And now it's like, I don't need that, like people like to wave their money around and I'm like, I don't need that. Like, good luck, because that's not going to be fun. I'm not going to enjoy that, and I want to enjoy my life. I want to be able to take my kids where they need to be. I want to be able to, go on vacation. I want to be able to help my grandma if she needs help. And then I want to just show up and be having lots of fun. Like our t-shirts and stuff, they're freaking fun. And, I had a moment where I was in the shower and my husband's like, what are you doing in there? Are you having a shower cry? And I was like, yeah, I just sell t-shirts now. And he opened the door and he's like, damn straight you do. Look at all that money you make. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. So it's just like funny little things in our head. We all do it.
I love that. So I was a little concerned when you talked about shower moment because we did some podcast episodes together back in the previous iteration. And
right. I'm in my other life.
Yeah. And I think it was both of our other lives. And I love that we get to grow together too. That's part of the fun of the online space is that it's not a constant in your face working side by side. It's really being able to support each other from afar, growing together but separately, and then bringing things and lessons and whatever to the table and supporting each other's businesses too, because I'm always looking for what you're selling on the shop because I'm like, ooh, do I need this? I mean, I always need it, but do I buy it now?
No, everybody needs one of the Be Your Own Girl Crush tank tops. They're like the best. But no, there's so many that I love. I like wear them all the time. I don't have on one today though, but so don't look. I have on another girl's t-shirt. Guys, you know what?
What does your t-shirt say though?
It says babes support babes.
Exactly.
But you know what, you guys, one of the easiest things you can do is just buy each other's merch. Like you have to wear a shirt. Why not put it on? It feels so freaking dope to wear something and someone was like, hey, cute shirt. And I'm like, yeah, my friend made it. Or yeah, this is my friend's business. That is the easiest freaking way to support each other. And it feels good. This reminds me too, one of my friends, they were selling sports bras and I was like, hey, I'll just buy, a handful of them. And she's like, why are you buying so many? And I'm like, well, I got to buy my sports bras somewhere. Why don't I just buy them from you? Yeah. It's stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm going to do it. And I think that if more people understood how far it goes when you just, because that person could be on the verge of quitting and you showing up and you buying one of their things could really be the thing that shows them that it's not in vain for them, and I think it has to come from within, but sometimes, a lot of small business owners, online business owners are really, really working hard and struggling. And just that one piece of, you know what, let me support you today. How can I support you? What can I buy from you? It goes so far.
It really does.
But you were talking about when you said you had a shower moment, I was concerned because you have from day one, since I met you, talked about self-love and really loving yourself where you are. You've done photo shoots of complete raw beauty of women who wouldn't be in a model magazine, but who are real women. It was like the women of Dove, just like, let's use real women and real bodies. And these bodies have created babies and done great things. And so I was concerned that you were going to go into another one of those moments, but it was a great opportunity to just solidify that you're such a proponent of women's journeys, women's bodies, women loving themselves. Have you always been this way?
Well, no. I love when you ask these questions. I'm like, duh, no. Or else it wouldn't be so special, right? No, of course I haven't always loved my body. In fact, I still struggle with like the extra skin on my stomach. And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, it would only take surgery to ever feel better. And I'm like, well, no, actually it won't. So, there's always things that we struggle with, and body dysmorphia is real. Like sometimes I'll see a photo and I'll be like, who is that? And they're like, that's you. And I'm like, oh, well, that girl looks really good. So there's always something that we're working on, because you know what, you guys, it's not your fault. I know that so many women have body issues. I hated myself for so long, but we are constantly just like berarded in the face. Berarded, is that a word? Berarded? No.
I mean, it could
it's
be.
Constantly thrown. I make up my own words, okay? I am the universe and the universe is me, right?
Yes.
So it's constantly just like shoved in our face that like we need to look like a Victoria's Secret model. And, it's not logical at all. sometimes women, they carry their babies different. Our skins are different. Everything's different, like about us, shorter, taller, like all this stuff. And so it's not your fault that you've had this standard of beauty shoved in your face. Like, I think it really started like 50s, like all of that kind of era. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Like, we're even now told that our teeth aren't wide enough, and, it goes on and on and on. So yeah, the tissue test commercial, I've talked about this, and I think it was with you. The tissue test commercial makes me so mad. Nobody's teeth are ever going to be the color of a tissue. The tissues are bleached. They're bleached paper, right?
Yeah. So bleached teeth will be the color of tissue.
Exactly. So just things like that. And so it's not your fault. You have to learn to like really filter that. And once you can learn to like filter, years and years and years of having this shoved in your face, that's when you start to see the magic. And if you can just start small and like just accept one thing today, like accept it and then accept responsibility for it too, and be like, hey, I know I've been really, really mad at my kinkles. I'm just going to use kinkles for an example and be like, hey, I know that I've been a dick to myself, and be like, but I couldn't stand if it wasn't for you, and really start small with those processes. And then when something comes up, address it. Don't just like shove it down.
Every time you talk and you finish, I'm like, boom, that would be a great end to the interview. But I have another question. It's like mic drop everywhere, mic drops. But I have a question for you. And we talked a little while ago, and you had mentioned that you just cut out alcohol completely from your life.
I love talking about this. Yeah, so I did do that. So I am like 98 days, 99 days sober.
Awesome.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, you know me, I'm like wine, vodka, wine. You should see my rosé vodka collection. It's so beautiful. But I got to a point in my life where I knew that it wasn't serving me anymore. And I'm obsessed with feeling the best that I can feel. See, that's the difference between like, before when we used to hang out was I was constantly like striving for this goal over here instead of striving for this goal inside of me. And now my like obsession is how good can I feel? How good can I feel? There's like, you shouldn't feel this way, or you shouldn't have this. And I could just tell my body was done processing alcohol. I've used alcohol to mask like so many like pains and traumas and things. And I just was like, it is time to cut it. That was a hard day. And what's funny, it started it is they had closed, the spin studio where I go. Apparently we're just going to talk about spin now. They had closed it for, Corona stuff. And then they had just reopened. So all of that break, I did have a bike at home. So I'd been working out, but I had been drinking a ton. I mean, everyone knew how it went, like, right. I just was like wine in the coffee cup, whatever. Like, it just seemed like, I mean, everyone knows alcohol sales went like through the roof. I was contributing. Okay. And, I just wasn't feeling my best. And when they reopened, I went back into spin and I had a great spin ride. And I could just feel, I swear it was like God came down and was standing in front of me and was like, here, I'm going to just like flick every drink you've ever had at you. And you can feel it running through your body. Oh. It was miserable. And I knew in that moment I could never drink again, but I didn't know how, because it's addictive. I'm addicted to the social situation of it. I'm addicted to, hard days, celebrations, all of those things we have put alcohol is like the factor in all of it. Right. It's really interesting too, once you pull out of alcohol, how much you start seeing things totally different. You're like, wow, this world is really fucked up at telling us like how we should eat, sleep, drink, celebrate like our whole lives, right? So I had to kind of redefine so many things. But that first day I did start out going to AA, and I went to AA for a week, and then they closed AA because of Corona.
And you're like, damn it, I'm getting sober.
I know, but it was honestly like, it was a jump start for me. So I just like carried it on, and I was like, I'm not going to drink. And do I still think about drinking every day, multiple times? Yes. Do I still want to drink? Yes. But I don't want to feel it that way. So I always focus on the feeling. Like, I know how it's going to feel in my gut. I know how it's going to feel in my brain, and I know how it's going to feel in my body. And I don't want that in my life.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just feel so amazing for you and understand what kind of a step that is, because, even you're talking about the social gatherings, friends, oh, come on over, we'll have a couple drinks. Well, I'll come over, but how about if we barbecue? Well, what if we're not eating barbecue? Like, I'll come over. But
I know it's gotten so hard, and people are like, well, is it okay if we drink? And I'm like, yeah, like, but my social life is definitely different. And I was just talking to someone about this morning, is I need to redefine it. And I honestly was like, I'm from Utah. I'm like, what do my Mormon friends do all the time? So I'm like really like having to redefine like my social life. And, even at first too, the anxiety, oh my gosh, all of a sudden when you take that like mask away from what you're controlling your anxiety with, it just went like boom, like just crazy. You think you're like, oh, I stopped drinking now, everything will be better. No, you have to kind of like crawl through like all the broken bottles before you get to where it feels good.
Because there was a reason why you chose the drinking in the first place. And then you have to go back through those bottles and examine everything you left behind.
Yeah. I had to like figure out how to like talk to my husband again, even because we would go out and have drinks, date night drinks. It definitely helps you loosen up if you want to have sex. So you have to like redefine all of that as well. And even just like, I used to invite people over all the time, and now I don't really want people here. So I'm just going through this process, and then too, I've also learned like who some of my actual friends were, and some of them are just like throwing some judgment at me now. And so, it's just like a whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. So what has been, obviously you have, your cycle, your spin, but
it's not Soul Cycle, but yeah.
I know. I want to call it that. And I know it's not.
I have been to Soul Cycle once, and I can tell you this is better than Soul Cycle.
Oh, wow. So obviously that's a good alternative to you, but there's always,
in fact, I started signing up for a morning class and a night class because I wasn't going to go hungover, and I wasn't going to drink after I'd worked out.
Well, that's
so
smart.
Tip if you're like getting there, just start over exercising.
So there are times though where you're alone and you're not in a workout class and you don't have conversations with your husband. In those moments, what are some things that have helped you define you?
So really, like, I've just dove more into my spirituality. Like, I started reading again, and not that we don't read, but we've just kind of like hooked into the Audible, right? So last night I read like for 2 hours, like an actual paperback book. And I've read like tons of books again. I just will hang out. I've done so many more things with my kids. It's just totally different now.
Wow, that's awesome.
It just feels very chill. Like, it's just like, it brings your vibe down.
Yeah.
In a good way, like mellow, but high vibe.
It's so funny. I didn't think that like we were going to be getting like spirituality tips from you when we talk today, but I love how the podcast just takes a life of its own. And I think that the other piece of it is you didn't just come on the scene yesterday. You've been here for years. And so one of the really big valuable pieces that I try to bring on the Show Up show is giving people real life examples of what it looks like, the messy, the recovery, the holy crap, I have to walk away from something that seemed so successful. There's so much in this, and even just in this single interview, that can help so many people. So before we go, is there anything else? I want to talk about your business to end this up, but is there anything that you can think of that our listeners might really gain from? If there was one thing, like my experience would be that this is probably something that would help.
Yeah, I really wish that people would stop like looking at other people's lives, especially business coaches, and then trying to recreate that in their own life. It really sucks, especially when you drop. I'm going to use you as an example, Debbie, especially when you come out of the gate, right? And then you see these amazing entrepreneurs who are pulling in 6 figures every month. And then you invest in their like high level coaching program, you hang out with them, and you realize it's kind of like just, not even close to what you expected. There's nothing that they can really help you with even. And it's kind of like, now you have to pay off your credit card, right? I've done it too. So I was like, Debbie and I have both done this.
Yeah.
And I really, really wish that like you didn't have to do that. I really wish that like people would stop being like, look at my life. It's so shiny and so pretty. If you pay me money, yours can look like that too. I really wish that would just completely end. And I wish people would be like, hey, here's some things I can help you with. Do you need help with these things? And you could decide for yourself if you need help. Not this like manipulative marketing that we've all grown so accustomed to. Yeah. And it's the influencer marketing. Look at my cute butt. You'll feel better when you have this butt. Pay me 10 grand and I'll fix your business. That's not how it works, because they've never built what you're building. You're your own brand of special seed, and you aren't building what they are. it's great. I think mentors are amazing. I love, love, love mentors. Like, hey, how should I handle this situation? That's a little different than some of this other stuff. So I just wish people would start looking at their own lives and being like, what do I actually want? Because maybe you want to buy a trailer and you want to just drive around and travel.
Yeah.
Maybe you just want to make a few extra $1,000 so that you can pick your kids up from school and you can quit that shitty job. Like, think about it. Like, what do you actually want? Like, what would make you happy today? And then once you achieve that, be like, hey, how would my life get a little bit better? And then achieve that and keep going and going and going.
Yeah. And the key to that, I mean, everything in my life, because I did that for a few years, and everything in my life started shifting when I realized that maybe I didn't want this multi-million-dollar mansion on the water. Maybe I actually liked my life the way it was, but needed to just have a greater impact on people to really do the things that I came here for.
Yeah.
And
I just practice sharing love. Like, I got a McFlurry at McDonald's yesterday, and I was like, that girl needs some love. And I was like, you're beautiful. Thank you for the ice cream.
Yeah. But sometimes it's just being able to look around and see what you've already built. It's really just so many people are stuck in that overachieve. I have to do more. And it's like, wait, but how about you just back up and see what you've already built? How about you back up and see who you already are? How about you back up and just look around you? You're already surrounded by awesomeness. And if people could just remove that filter from their lives and see the beauty that's all around them already and see that they're already successful and they're already enough, I just feel like the world would be such a better place and people could save a lot of money.
Yeah. And, the other day, this girl told me that my business card made her cry and just like totally reframed where she was at that day. And I was like, you know what, if that's all I've done, that's worth it. Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. What's your business card say?
It's these postcards that I hand out, and it says, the glitter is you, babe. It's spreading happiness and it's spreading joy, but it all starts with you. And it's Be Your Own Girl Crush.
Oh, that's great. I love your postcards. Getting your postcards in the mail is so fun. So, all right. So Be Your Own Girl Crush is, it's your brand and you sell it through, is shop? Is that the name?
Yeah. So that's just kind of my like brand motto, my personal brand.
So you are a badass yourself and you are a successful business owner. So
totally.
Really quickly as we end here, let's just talk about where people can find you and what you have going on so that we can support you too.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's the Samantha Parker because there's only one of me. That's all that was available.
Thank you so much. Is there anything other than that you think we should know about you?
I have a great butt. No, I love glitter so much. It's insane. Like glitter is like my soul sister. So you guys, that's something you should know about me is glitter is a way of life.
Noted. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to helping you grow and expand your reach too. And I'm sure that some of our listeners will be reaching out to cash in on some of that bling. And I hope that they don't send their checks with glitter.
Oh, I do.
All right. Thanks. If you like what you're hearing on the Show Up Show, be sure to subscribe. And if you really, really, really like it, please leave a 5-star review. If you'd like to connect with the Show Up Show on social media, you can find us on Facebook at the Show Up Show Podcast or on Twitter at the Show Up Show. Let's be sure to connect over on the other side. Thanks for listening.